really defective, you know. Talking about a C-section and being unable to give birth naturally. You're a complete failure as a wife.
Out of nowhere, I received a barrage of abusive words on my answering machine from my boyfriend. But I'm neither married nor pregnant. What do you mean? However, it didn't take long for me to understand the situation. I'm Rissa, 26 years old. I work as a stylist at a beauty salon. I've been working there for 6 years, starting as an assistant. Last year, I finally made my debut as a stylist. Day in and day out, I shampoo endlessly during the day and practice cutting at night. I've been tirelessly working on improving my skills. Accumulating experience, my dream is to someday become independent and have my own salon. Good job today! After finishing work, I walked quickly to the station, passed through the ticket gate, and boarded a train heading in the opposite direction of my home. I'm going on a date with my beloved boyfriend. I met Georgie, my boyfriend, at a party about 6 months ago. Georgie is a handsome and a refreshing young man. Not only me, but all the girls present at the party desperately vied for his attention. Amidst fierce competition among the women, I managed to sit next to him, pretending to go to the restroom, and successfully sneaked away with him. I felt a little guilty towards my friends who had attended the party, but it couldn't be helped. That's how much Georgie matched my taste. Afterward, we had drinks at a stylish bar and hit it off completely. That night, I stayed at his place. From that day we met, we started dating. Since then, I've been going on dates with Georgie once a week. When I arrived at the nearest station to his workplace, I stopped by the restroom to touch up my makeup. As I looked in the mirror, my face naturally relaxed with happiness about meeting him. Suddenly, I felt someone's gaze, and when I checked behind me in the mirror, it must have been obvious that my face had relaxed too much. I met the gaze of a woman who seemed to feel disgust towards me. I quickly switched to a blank expression, tidied up, and hurried to the meeting place with Georgie. Checking the time when I arrived at the meeting place, it was exactly 5 minutes before our scheduled meeting time. With my excitement held in check, but still feeling anxious while waiting for him, my mobile phone suddenly rang. I hurriedly answered the call. "Hello, Georgie? I just arrived." However, Georgie answered in a low tone, as if he was in an uncomfortable place.
Rissa, I'm sorry. There's a sudden issue, and I won't be able to come back for a while. I'm really sorry for the short notice. But can we cancel our date for today? I promise we'll make up for it another time.
What? I was looking forward to it. But I understand. Good luck with your work. We both have jobs to attend to. I didn't want to be too demanding. With a heavy heart, I said that and hung up the phone. I put my mobile phone back in my pocket and retraced my steps with a dejected mood. Inside the train on the way back, I gazed absent-mindedly out the window. I was lost in thought to the extent that I didn't notice my mobile phone vibrating in my pocket. How long had it been ringing? I realized and hurriedly checked it, only to find it was an incoming call from Georgie. However, the train was crowded. It would be quite rude to answer the call here. I thought so and decided to get off at the next station and call him back. I let the call go unanswered. After a while, I switched to voicemail, and it seemed like a message had been left. It was something unimaginable from the usual Georgie.
Hey, come on. Why didn't you answer the phone? You know, you're a really defective product. Talking about a C-section and not being able to give birth naturally. You're a complete failure as a wife. Being a defective product means divorce. Don't tarnish our bloodline any further.
Unexpected words left me in shock and panic, and my mind went blank. C-section? Divorce? What was happening? Overwhelmed by it all, I stood still at the nearest station to my house. After getting off the train, I mustered the courage to call Georgie. After a few rings, Georgie answered the phone. Georgie's tone was completely unchanged, just like always.
Hello, Rissa. What's wrong? I've finally finished work, and I'm on my way home now. I'm really sorry about today.
I couldn't comprehend the situation, and I couldn't say anything. Perhaps he thought my silence was strange.
Hey, are you mad? Is everything okay?
To my continued silence, he sounded concerned. I took a deep breath to calm myself and asked him a question. About the voicemail earlier. What was that about? Can you explain? Talking about a C-section and divorce? I'm your girlfriend, right? Georgie, are you married? And what's with calling your wife defective? Do you always speak to her like that?
The voicemail. I didn't think...
In response to my inquiry, Georgie seemed to have an idea, and he quickly manipulated his mobile phone before saying this.
Rissa, I'm sorry. It was just a mistake. Can we pretend you didn't hear it and forget about it?
You can't just pretend after I've already heard it, I said with exasperation. And Georgie, looking flustered, said this.
No, that's not it. Not at all. I thought of surprising you. A surprise, you know. I acted it out. We've been dating for 6 months now, and I didn't want us to get into a rut. I want to be lovey-dovey with you forever, Rissa, so I just did it on a whim.
Even if it was an excuse, it sounded too forced. I wanted to make things clear, so I questioned him. Georgie, be honest. Are you already married? Was your wife pregnant? You mentioned a C-section, but did everything go well? And what's this about calling her defective? Do you always say such horrible things?
I mean, about that.
I interrupted his words and said this. Stop with the lies. Even if you're married, it doesn't matter to me. My reaction seemed unexpected, and now it was Georgie's turn to be stunned. My love for you isn't something that can be shaken by such a small thing.
Really?
Georgie asked in surprise. Yes, of course. But if I become your wife in the future, will you say such terrible things to me too? I might not be able to endure it. I replied with a worrisome tone, and he reassured me loudly.
I won't say those things to you, I promise. I won't hurt you. Besides, I was planning to divorce her sooner. My mother was nagging me about needing an heir, so I reluctantly continued the marriage. But if you marry me and give birth to an heir, I'll divorce her right away.
Is the baby born safely?
Huh? Yeah, but she's just a girl, so she won't be an heir. And she wasn't born naturally, which is embarrassing for both me and my mother.
After hearing this story, I told Georgie this. I see. Thank you for telling me. But I wonder if your wife will agree. I don't think she'll easily let go of a wonderful husband like you. I paused a moment before saying, I have to thoroughly crush your wife's spirit to make sure she never thinks of trying to take you back. I muttered in a low voice, and he looked surprised as he said,
Rissa, you say some unexpectedly intense things.
But I really want to be your wife. Oh, I know. Could you give me your wife's contact information? I appealed to Georgie like that, and this time he answered with a smirk.
Rissa, you're really cute. I love you, but seriously, even if I give you her contact information, what are you planning to do?
I could easily imagine Georgie with a relaxed expression on his face. With a fearless smile, I said, Hey, did you know, in cases of infidelity, you can claim alimony for several years after a divorce. What if your wife realizes our relationship after divorcing you and sues you? I want to be happy with you. I don't want any alimony. It's just a hypothetical situation. But what if I were to get pregnant with your child? If we were dragged into a legal battle, it might cause so much stress that I'd have a miscarriage. I wouldn't want that, right? So I want to settle this now. I don't want to pay child support for that girl.
I see, Rissa. You're amazing. I'm falling for you even more.
Georgie seemed relieved by my reaction and was overly delighted. Don't worry. I'll handle it perfectly. Trust me, Georgie. I love you. After hanging up with Georgie, I hurried home and began preparations for something. 1 week later, on my day off, I was at a stylish cafe with private rooms. I sipped coffee, contemplated the future, and took a break. Suddenly, a woman approached me. You're Rissa, right? I'm Emily, Georgie's wife. Caught off guard, I quickly stood up and bowed deeply to the woman. Nice to meet you. I'm Rissa. I'm really sorry for everything. After exchanging apologies, we both took our seats, and I ordered drinks for Emily. I immediately got to the point. As I mentioned on the phone this morning, please take a look at this. I spread out documents I had prepared over the past week while working and staying up all night. They included mementos and photos from my time with Georgie, as well as printed WhatsApp conversations. I revealed the details of our relationship, how we met, and the moments we shared. And could you listen to this? I took out my mobile phone and played the recorded conversation between Georgie and me from that time. In fact, I had secretly recorded our conversation back then. Emily looked at the documents with a serious expression and listened intently. Her eyes were clearly showing signs of agitation, but she managed to maintain her composure. After listening to the recording, Emily began speaking with a weary expression. Rissa, you were really dating Georgie, thinking he was single, weren't you? Actually, he served me divorce papers yesterday. His mother joined in, showering me with harsh words, saying they didn't need a defective woman who couldn't bear an heir. I genuinely want to accept the divorce. Of course, I'll raise our child. If you still want to be with Georgie, please don't worry about me. I have no intention of getting involved further, and I won't ask for child support or alimony. Please rest assured. After Emily finished speaking in one breath, she took a sip of her now cold coffee. I stared into her eyes and said, I have no intention of continuing my relationship with Georgie. Through this ordeal, my feelings for him have completely vanished. Besides, if I were to be with him, I'd undoubtedly receive the same treatment as you, and I absolutely refuse to associate with a man who has such a rotten character as to insult a woman who went through the trouble of giving birth to a lovely baby, along with his mother. Emily, pardon my blunt words, but aren't you angry at all? Giving in like this? I hate to say it, but I can't accept it. Let's make him suffer. As I confronted her, she appeared clearly bewildered. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause stress during this difficult postpartum period. No, it's all right. But of course, I don't know what to do. And my only concern is to make the newborn happy, she said reassuringly to me as she looked down in anxiety, trying to comfort me. I have a good idea. Let's push him to rock bottom and make him experience despair to the fullest. Emily, you don't have to do anything. I'll handle it. After all, even though I didn't know anything, I ended up hurting you deeply. As a form of atonement, I want to take responsibility. She nodded as if she had made a decision. I understand. All right, please go ahead. After that, Georgie and Emily got divorced. 3 months later, Georgie and I were continuing our relationship smoothly, with our wedding just a week away. It was a rare date for us that day, and Georgie seemed particularly cheerful.
The wedding is coming up soon. I'm looking forward to it. My mother praised you, saying you're much prettier and smarter than my previous wife.
Georgie, who knew nothing, smiled happily with a foolish expression. But to me, his face now seemed truly repulsive and filthy. Congratulations to you two. Do you even have a brain inside that head of yours? I muttered, looking the other way.
Rissa, did you say something?
Georgie asked in surprise. I replied with a cold tone and a smile. There's no way I'd marry a rotten monster like you, right? Even when you had a pregnant wife, you were having an affair with me, acting like you're still single. After committing the most heinous act of betrayal, how can you keep a straight face? Do you have some kind of mental illness? My sudden outburst left Georgie looking confused.
But she left with the baby without claiming any compensation or child support. You convinced Emily to do that, right?
Desperately clinging to that thought, Georgie looked at me. I laughed and replied, Yes, I told Emily to do that. We put on a little act together. It's all to teach you and your family a lesson.
I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you mean?
Georgie listened to my words, and he looked anxious and panicked. I stared coldly in his eyes and said, You've been deceiving me all this time, despite being married. My affection for you has long since cooled since that phone call. And to think you and your family, after all the suffering Emily went through with a breech birth and a cesarean section to deliver your child, would hurl such cruel words at her, calling her a defective woman and treating her like garbage. I'm not foolish enough to become part of such a despicable family. As I spoke rapidly, Georgie's face turned as if he'd been struck by lightning. Then he collapsed from his kneeling position.
Lies. This can't be. What about the wedding? It's impossible to cancel it now. We'd have to pay an outrageous cancellation fee.
Ironically, Georgie reproached me, but I calmly replied, "Why should I care about that? If you're worried about the cancellation fee, why don't you marry your beloved mama? Oh, and by the way, you'll soon receive a certified letter from Emily's lawyer demanding compensation and child support. Pay it properly."
Compensation and child support? Why are you talking about that now? She left without asking for anything.
Georgie mumbled with frustration. "Did you record or put it in writing when Emily said that at that time?"
That is...
Georgie's face turned pale all of a sudden. "I thought so. Then you have no evidence. You're a working adult. Don't you understand the importance of putting things in writing? You're truly an inept fool." I said this and laughed. Georgie was trembling, on the verge of collapsing like a downed boxer. "It's your child, so paying child support is only right, and the compensation will be substantial. I've kept that answering machine message from back then. Of course I've made copies and given them to Emily's lawyer. Remember calling her a defective woman? And the reason being that she couldn't have a boy or because she didn't have a natural birth. What does that even mean, not a natural birth? As if there's a hierarchy in the difficulty of childbirth. I'd like to spread that recording to everyone you know."
Please wait. If you do something like that, I'm finished. I'll do anything, just don't do that.
Frantically, Georgie pleaded with me, but I ignored him and said, "Emily won't accept compensation from me, so instead, I used that money to hire lawyers for her. Lawyers who specialize in infidelity and divorce, and lawyers who are well-versed in domestic violence. They'll surely thoroughly defeat you, Georgie. You can't escape anymore." I said this and left him there, with his face ashen and bowed. 6 months later, I finally opened up my shop, as I had always dreamed. While preparing for the opening, my first customer arrived. She held her baby and came up to me smiling warmly and said, "Congratulations, Rissa." I replied, "Thank you, Emily. Please come this way. You can hold the baby while you shop." I welcomed Emily with a smile and guided her. After that, Georgie was overwhelmed with various matters, including paying the wedding cancellation fee, Emily's demands for compensation and child support, and negotiations with lawyers. Rumors about him spread quickly, even without me disseminating the recording. He was forced to resign from his job, faced backlash from friends who learned of the situation, and was ostracized by neighbors and fellow parents. Whenever Georgie and his child passed by, not only were they talked about behind their backs, but also people avoided making eye contact with them and quickly left the scene. Under stress, Georgie appeared haggard, far from his former handsome self, and his inherent mean-spirited nature was evident even on the surface. Despite all the talk about an heir, the family lineage will likely come to an end with Georgie. I hope that such a wretched family lineage will indeed perish. Emily and I have deepened our friendship since then. When I first met Emily, she had just given birth, and she looked exhausted and worn out from fatigue and mental stress. But now she has completely regained her energy. "I can finally go out and get my hair cut. This little one is such a good baby, and now that her neck is stable, I feel relieved." Seeing her happy, I couldn't help but feel happy myself. "But is it really okay for it to be free? You've covered all the lawyer's fees and everything, so I feel a bit cheeky," she asked hesitantly, and I answered with a mischievous smile. "That's because I won't accept compensation. Here is a permanent free coupon for all the services, so don't hesitate. Today you can get a haircut, color, or perm, whatever you like. Oh, but since the baby might get lonely, how about just a haircut?" I laughed, and Emily bowed deeply. "Thank you very much. Then I'll take you up on your offer for a haircut." "Got it. I'll make you look absolutely adorable, so please leave it to me." As I said this with a smile, the baby in Emily's arms looked over at us and smiled.